Welcome, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Live by Heart Today. This is show 55, Expanding Roles, with your hosts, Don and Wendy.
Pink elbows.
Oh, that's so fun. Make sure we can see that in the show. That's so cute.
All right. 5, 4. Our show begins now. Streaming from Retro Earth Studio and brought to you by
Learn to play jazz piano like a pro, by a pro, with Jazz Piano Pro Essentials at jazzpianopro.com.
and wearehistorically.com. Conscious Brand Apparel. It's time for the next episode of Live by Heart
Today.
Hello and welcome to the Live by Heart Today show number 55. This is a show designed to help you navigate change, uncertainty, and the new world we found ourselves in. We'll talk a little bit about science, a little bit about how our body works, a little bit about intuition, and we'll talk a lot about transformation. I'm Dawn Spiegelberg, posture therapist and coherence coach. We're focusing on rebirth. Today's theme is expanding roles. I'd like to welcome my co-host, Wendy R. Wolf, professional transformation facilitator. Welcome, Wendy.
Hey, Dawn. This is such a great topic. I'm really excited. There's so many places we could go with this. So strap on. We're going. We're learning and growing and changing. That's what expanding roles is to me. What are you thinking about?
Alongside our seed discussion from last time, I was thinking about how when a seed first breaks open, creates a root and then a stem, essentially they're taking from the environment. They're taking the moisture, they're taking nutrients, and the environment is in support of that relatively small expenditure from the environment. And then when that seed becomes a full-fledged tree, there's so much giving that tree does. So the environment gives at the beginning, but then when the tree is maturing, it's providing a nest for birds or other critters. Insects are using it as a highway. It provides fruit for local animals, but it's also the roots are providing nutrients back into the soil. And it's really just incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So expanding roles, I think, is a little more obvious when it comes to a structure like a tree, but we don't notice it in our own lives as much, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. And I just have to say that really obvious stuff too, oxygen.
Right.
And holding the soil together against erosion and actually encourage things to build up in that area. It encourages a buildup of the soil. It's awesome. Yeah, I really love that picture. It's such an expansive conversation here about, okay, it's receiving a lot and then it seems it's giving more. And meanwhile, it has so much surface area. Who knows? I mean, it's sucking up the CO2, right? And it's still bringing in minerals, but I guess less because it has to create less tree. And now it's just replacing leaves if it's deciduous, right? So relatively, it's giving so much more in its older life.
Mm-hmm.
Just like hopefully we are.
And I see that as a problem with so many individuals, that they're wondering what their purpose is. They're struggling to see where they give, what their contribution is. That's a hard path for people.
It's so interesting because I think for you and I and people, lots of people, there's a million things we want to contribute. There's a million things we can do. Like I have to constantly be like, back Wendy, no Wendy, because because I want to help here and do this and do that and learn this and help there, and it's just like, no, focus on here because then you'll move this forward. What's your experience?
I see that similarly. To name a few, we do this show, and we have our own clientele that we serve, and I'm also a fencing instructor. So I love doing what I love. And on top of that, I have a home to take care of and children and dogs and chickens. So there's so many roles we play, and it's expanded because when I was younger, I would not have managed as many things as I manage now.
Mm.
And I think back to when we first brought our oldest home from the hospital. That's a complete change.
Yes.
And learning how to care for a baby, especially if you don't have experience with that, is a big undertaking. And then there are people who have twins. So that's double the care.
Yes.
And we grow and we learn, and the children learn. So the children take a lot of resources at the beginning, and then you hope that they begin contributing rather
Mm-hmm.
than just taking resources. That's, I think, a better plan anyway.
Yes, and your boys do, right? I mean, they're teenagers. They help around the house. They're contributing.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of, it still takes something to support that, but
Mm-hmm.
you're encouraging them to make that turn.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. But where you started with about like for our older generations, like I don't relate to it. Like I can't believe, like I look back, it's like, oh, when my grandmother was this age, I was that age. And, like it just feels so different now. But there's in our culture, for a lot of us, there's a not honoring the wisdom and the presence of older people like I would like to see, because there's so much potential fruit there.
Yes, I agree with that. And they're the ones who remember the history. I was realizing recently how history repeats itself. And the thought suddenly struck me that's because people die. So the people who lived it to remember it aren't around anymore to teach us, oh, don't go down that road. That's dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this perpetuation of history, and they say nothing new under the sun. But it seems new to us if we haven't been through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and it's funny because in general, I think honoring the elders is wonderful. And yes, they carry the stories and the information and the wisdom and what worked and didn't work. And I do some interviewing of people, and I really like to pull out that stuff with people individually. But at the same time, it's like, oh yeah, but I don't talk to my mom and my aunts and my uncles like that. Like they're great resources that it would help me to delve. That's not how I'm usually relating to them. And that's kind of a shame.
Oh, that's interesting. I guess if you're talking about making an opportunity to interview them with a specific set of questions, that sort of makes sense that you don't do that with some of your family. But I find myself, when I speak with my mother, hearing what she says, asking what she's doing, and learning about her activity and her perspective on life, and always deciding, is that a perspective I want, or is that a perspective that stays with her?
Yes.
So in expanding roles, I find myself sometimes challenging my mom to think a little differently about things, but also realizing where she's not necessarily going to change because it serves her better to stay with those thoughts or with those beliefs.
Mm-hmm. Or at least that's where the momentum is. That's where the grooves are.
Yeah.
So whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And I look at the kinds of things that are associated with the aging population. So the physical things, the whether or not they're moving well in their body, the locomotion, their locomotive ability, and also organ function? Is their brain functioning? How is their heart and their lungs? And there was a period of time where they talked about continuing to stimulate your brain by brushing your teeth with your opposite hand, which, you're all thumbs with your non-dominant hand. But I think keeping things stimulated is so essential. So with regard to expanding roles, we want to continue the roles that we have, but also expand, and to know that change comes. We all age, we all go from younger to older, and with some of those changes, we can stay ahead of the curve. For example, you can still continue standing up and sitting down on a regular basis, which the elderly stop doing, which is not good. Then eventually they struggle to stand up and sit down. And while that's a sign of aging, it doesn't have to be, right? There are people who are allowing that to happen. But it hasn't always been that way in our history. When we had more farmers and there was more walking, more chores and things, people did not necessarily lose the ability to sit and stand for such a long period of their living days.
Yes, because they had to be doing the same things because survival depended on it.
Yes.
And now it doesn't. Yeah. I was just noticing, I've been, it's been annoying, but I've been blessed to go through 2 big cycles where I lost a lot of capacity. I lost a lot of balance. I lost a lot of muscle. I lost a lot, and then got it back. And so like, I see how it's really a matter of use. I mean, this past time, like I just couldn't like leap from rock to rock. I couldn't, I couldn't go downstairs without holding on. These kinds of things. And then I had to relearn to go downstairs without holding on and have trust my feet and trust the balance. It took a minute.
Yes.
And lately I've been leaping rock to rock. Not very far, but it's a big deal,
Yes.
to be going out into the river, boing, boing, boing. So that's so exciting, with no lean on stick or whatever. So it really is a matter of use. It's not only, age is limiting because, I can't trust my knee anymore or whatever, but it's that balance can be regained, which is so exciting.
It can. And if somebody watching can't trust their knee, they should contact us because we can teach them how to trust their knee again. And I want to point out that you were brilliant in holding the handrail while you were using the stairs. That was a support, and it was helping build your confidence and build your balance and security.
Yeah. And then learning to not do it was weird.
Yes. And then learn to not do it.
Not do it. It really shows up. It's just like, wait, I used to just jump up and down stairs 2 and 3 at a time. And now I'm having, I remember this not so long ago in college. And it's just like, it takes getting over that. It's like, well, I'm not there now. I'm just going to, practice. It was just practicing not holding on and then practicing not looking. A whole nother skill that I've lost because it was all so careful. So anyway, you were very generous to include me, but you are brilliant at helping knees, hips, ankles, all that stuff is like part of the reason, one of the huge reasons that I can do these things is because you've helped me relearn how to use my body in different ways.
Thank you.
Really, it's
so
all the difference.
I'd like to thank you for that. And I'd like to point out that while I showed you the way, you did the work.
Yeah.
True. So well done.
True fact. Yes.
Well done.
Yes, it is the practice of it, right? And that's the thing. You see so many people and you say, okay, well, practice this. And some do and get great results. And that's how all of our life is. And that can help us expand in any way, in our learning, in our healing, in our growing, in our becoming who we are. Are we willing to go through that discomfort, that, I could fail, I could fall down, and then it becomes comfortable, and we're new and we're expanded.
I think of practicing violin, and I was taking violin lessons for a while, and then there was a difficult piece, and it required me to practice more, and my bandwidth did not support it. And so I was staying with this particular piece week after week after week, and my violin teacher usually teaches children. So I think she was a little confused about teaching me as an adult. Why is she still on this piece? We should have moved on by now. But I wanted to work on it, and I was limited in what I was able to commit to at that period of time. And I look back on it and I see, oh, it's different to teach children, and it's different to teach adults. And sometimes I would work on just a short piece, and sometimes I would work on the bowing without the fingering, right? There were so many different layers and levels of things to accomplish for that one particular piece, that honoring our growth periods, honoring our ability to expand is important, because we don't always see what someone is working on.
Yes. I believe a lot of people are working on something.
Yeah.
And it can take a while. It really can.
Yes. Every seed has a different germination period, and we cannot see the roots growing. And if we dig it up to see if there's a root, then we damage the seed and the root doesn't thrive.
Mm-hmm.
So waiting is important.
Yeah. And I did want to say, like our elderly, our older people, our ancestors have so much wisdom, and so do children. Like hanging out with children is just mind blowing. It's like, it reminds me of how much I've lost. It's like the longest part of my day when I'm with kids, because they're completely in present time.
Mm.
And it's like time becomes, God, that was only 5 minutes. We did this, and that, and the other thing.
And I'm exhausted now, and it was only 5 minutes.
Yeah, and how they see the world, and how they relate, and how they, there's just so much to learn by hanging out with small people, young people.
What I think I really appreciate about children is their resilience. They fall down, scrape their knee, they cry, and then they're up and running again.
Mm-hmm.
It hurt. Yeah, it was uncomfortable. And okay, let's go.
Yes, it's a really good part. And, very forgiving, ridiculously forgiving, which is helpful. And it reminds me of, are you ready to get off, kids? Because
I'm ready.
It reminds me of my relationship for so long. It was like, my experience was that Michael, like, something would happen, he'd be upset, and he's like, not Mr. Like, let's process it all the time. Almost never. So, which is like annoying for me. Right. And he'd just be like, he was still there, everything's fine, but like part of him would go away. He was hurt. He was upset. He was right. And he'd go away. And then I had to learn to just eventually let him come back. Cause like I could never make him come back.
Right.
Right. I could just mean to be safer and more comfortable. And then he'd eventually come back. And it felt like it took forever sometimes, just truly forever. And then lately, I don't know what's changed. I'm noticing the last many months, like, he is so much more resilient in our relationship. Like, we can something happens and it's like, and then 5 minutes goes by, he'll take out the trash, I'll do something, and then it's fine. That resilience is so important. I never appreciated it as much as I do, on an emotional level. Like, I was just used to think about it like, and as a physical level, oh my gosh, I could, I remember when I could start to hike 2 days in a row, that kind of, that was like huge. Yeah. And So like that kind of resilience, so appreciated, but like the emotional resilience is so important.
And it's beautiful when you see it develop.
Oh, thank God. Yeah.
Let's take a short break.
Let's give a shout out to our sponsors. Thank you, We Are Historically, for making this show possible. Shop online at wearehistorically.com.
Hello, my name is Wendy R. Wolf, and I hope you come to my intensive. I'm really interested in working together with people who are big feelers, healers, also lovers, and leaders. These are the people that tend to be really paying attention to what's going on the inside and how we can help people from there, help other people. And I'm going to offer an intensive with interactive exercises so that we can become empowered as big feelers and healers and lovers and leaders. And I hope you join me. Please go to my website, wendyrwolf.com, and on the top I'll have a button to sign up. Thank you.
As a posture therapist, I'm qualified to pinpoint the cause of physical symptoms by realigning the body, and then it's the body that heals itself. When you are in a state of overwhelm, your mind is out of alignment with your values. As a coherence coach, I'm astute enough to identify the root causes and show you how to realign with what you value, and your mind can be whole. You can live by heart today.
Hi, I'm Darius Wilrich. I instruct an online video course that teaches anyone how to play jazz piano like a pro with my proven step-by-step system that makes it simple to learn. Jazz Piano Pro Essentials. Learn the quickest way to start memorizing and playing scales today. Download my free Quick Start Guide.
Welcome back to the Live by Heart Today show. Today we're discussing expanding roles and how things change over time. Our understanding of the world, the way we interact in the world. And we use the example of seeds and relationships and resilience. And I've noticed for myself, there's a change that happens with a long-term relationship. We do bounce back. There can be something that's uncomfortable or not pleasant, but it doesn't linger for days and days and days. So, Wendy, what do you attribute that to, the change?
Well, it's really helpful. We're barking at 26 years. It really helps to have some years and decades under the belt, I think, because when it's like, I always laugh and think, it's the Seinfeld problem. Like in the beginning of a relationship, almost anything could kill it. It seems like, like, oh, I don't like the way they brush their teeth. I don't like the way they, leave hair in the sink, whatever. It's like, but after a while, like there's a momentum that builds and there's a trust that builds and so it really helps to have that when dealing with issues. Some of the original issues go away, but new ones come. And when they come, some are just keep being niggly and like start to feel really big after a while. But when they come, it's like, it's not gonna break the relationship. It's not gonna break it. Like it's like it's like a snowball rolling down the hill. It has more and more momentum. And so to be able to trust that and just to be able to be like, and that's why that those long years where it was just like, it felt like he would just go away. Like I knew he would come back and I just had to like go on with my life and have a life. And just trust that he'd be back more fully eventually, right? Like that's a really valuable thing, to be able to just trust that it's going to work out.
I was thinking exactly the word trust when I asked you the question. And there's something also underlying that trust, and that is staying committed. There's a certain shift that happens when you decide this is the road I'm going to go down, and if I decide to change in the future, I'll decide to change then. But right now, this is what my plan is. And making that choice helps to develop trust. And it's a beautiful thing when they come together and it works out. I know it doesn't always work out for everyone, and that's okay. That's a different path that they've chosen.
Yeah. Yeah. And, after the first 7 years, give or take, when like things are a certain way.
Yeah.
After that, it's like, I believe what we're talking about today, expanding roles, I believe is very useful in a relationship, because I'm not interested in being in a relationship that's stale or stopped or predictable or something that's an anachronism. And that's not the right word. Something that's that V word, vestigial. I'm not interested in a vestigial relationship at all. But when we bring in expanded roles, that changes things, because everybody's changing. I'm changing, my partner's changing, we're both changing together, our lives are changing all the time. So there's always new and fresh, there's always new challenges, there's always new learning. Nothing is to be taken for granted. It's like, oh, hi, who are you today? So it's, for me, expanded roles are vital to a long-term relationship. What do you think?
I agree with you, and I love the example of being in a relationship where someone is really good at something, and so they take on that role or that activity, and then sometimes there's a point at which they say, okay, now it's time for you to learn. And so you haven't done it before, or you decide you want to learn it, or it just fits better to switch. And there's bumps when somebody's really good at it. It's not easy to step in and try to be good too, right? There's a learning curve.
Yeah,
There's
it's
expansion.
like being a child. It's like a little bit of a child-parent experience in my experience. Because Michael's taught me so much. I've taught him lots too, but he's taught me so many very useful daily things. I'll give an example of he grew up 2 miles down a dirt road, so he was really good at driving on dirt roads. And we started exploring national forests and, in our car. And it's so funny because the big trucks and stuff always we're in this weird place and they come by and they're just looking at us like, how'd you get here?
Yes. Yeah.
In our little car. But it helped because first, I could watch him and watch how he does it. There's some things to learn. It's different driving in the back roads. It's just different. And then he's always like, you do it, which I really appreciate, because there's some people, there's some guys who just would be just like, I have to be the driver, and he's just like, all right, you drive. And so actually on dirt roads still, I'm more likely to be the driver. Also because he likes to be the looker. He likes to look, and I don't like to be practically falling off mountains and having him look somewhere else. So,
you mean while he's driving? Yeah, that's important. That's important.
So I like to drive when we're out there.
That's good, because I like you being on the show, and I would hate for that to change. I'm reminded of a story I heard my mother mention about one of my aunts who, when her husband passed unexpectedly, there were so many things he had always done that she had no clue about, like how to write a check or moving money from one place to another. And that was kind of a surprise, but I realized that was a generation where you left home to get married, and that isn't necessarily the same now. women often leave the roof of their parents and live on their own, right? Make their own way before they get in a relationship where then roles can shift again. And things change. Things really change.
Mm-hmm. And also, in the old days, there were much more rigid gender roles about who does what in a relationship, in the house, in the family, in business, much more rigid. And so the good part about that was that people could really deepen into what they're good at. Unfortunately, they're also asked to do things they might not be good at.
Right.
I much appreciate how it is now, because we can learn to do it all. And I really think that really helps us. It helps us continue to stretch and grow and stretch our brain and change our mind and see things different way and be independent. If and when the situation changes, we're prepared to do our adult responsibilities.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's resilience with that too. There's a confidence and a self-trust that's developed.
Yeah. Yeah. And so just what you're talking about, I mean, I joke with Michael all the time. I'm just always looking for, like, and we talked about this before the show, how, like, I don't really know exactly how to set up the computer to the big screen to the, it's like actually it's not rocket science, but there's a few different like things you have to do. And it's just like, if he fell off the planet, I don't know how to do it.
Yes.
Of course, I wouldn't do it because I'm happy just looking at my computer, but but it's good to know. So I'm like always watching for that. And like, I love that. I love to be just like, all right, you're in the dad role. How do you do this? It's very valuable to me. He's a very valuable partner to me because he has taught me so much and will continue.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because, nowadays you've got 3 controllers. You've got a controller for the TV, a controller for the sound, and a controller for something else. I can't keep them straight. And I'll say, okay, let's all sit down and do this family thing in front of this big screen. And I'll pick up a controller and I'll be pressing buttons and nothing's happening. And my children say, that's not the right one. You have to do this. We showed this to you before. And it's just not something that sticks in my mind as so important that I have to remember it. And they're there. So I rely on them, which may not be beneficial, but it's kind of funny because I'm always like, wait, this has a volume on it. Why isn't the volume changing? This has a channel on it. Why isn't the channel changing? And it's just awesome. Not the right one.
And that's expanded role too. It's so wonderful because the kids get to know and you don't. They get to lead and you follow. Mm-hmm. I remember my little niece Amy when she was little. She's not anymore. She was driving. But when she was like 10 years, when she was less than 5, she picked up my phone. She was doing something. She's like, "You have all these pages open." I'm like, "Pages open?" She spent like 5 minutes closing pages. She's like, "Wendy, I can't believe how pages you." I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about, but I see what you're doing." It's so funny. There's all these little things, and they just seem to know. Like they osmosis it. Mm-hmm. So riot those little ones with the technology.
Yeah, it's fun. Expanding roles, kids teaching the adults. It's beautiful.
Yes. Wonderful.
Thank you, Wendy. And thank you to everyone who's watching today. We'd love to hear from you. If our conversation spoke to you, please tell us what's on your heart by leaving a comment. For more information about how you can live by heart, please go to livebyhearttoday.com. Please like and follow this page and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our programs. We're here every week on Thursdays at 4:44 Pacific time. From our heart to yours, we're creating a better tomorrow because we live by heart today.
And that concludes this portion of
Live by Heart Today!
Thank you for watching. View more episodes on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you, We Are Storically, for your conscious human apparel. Shop online at wearehistorically.com.
Hi, I'm Darius Wilrich. I'll teach you everything you need to know about playing jazz piano like a pro with my 12-week online video course and downloadable guidebook, Jazz Piano Pro Essentials. Enroll today at jazzpianopro.com.
Thank you for joining us. Have a happy always.